Hi there guys, my name is Aaron and you can learn Make and Create together with me in Adobe Photoshop. Today I'm going to show you how you can edit a portrait step by step using Tamara Williams Academy Panel. So without further ado, let's get started. So here we are in Adobe Photoshop, and as you can see in the left side we have the Tamara Williams Academy Panel. But before we dive into today's video tutorial, if you decide to buy the Tamara Williams Academy Panel, in the discount section put ERJ10 to get 10% off in the Williams Academy Panel, brushes and everything that she has in her website. So a huge thanks to the Tamara Williams for providing us with the Tamara Williams Academy Panel. So first thing first, what we're going to do in today's portrait is that we need to start with the cleaning, obviously. So first thing first, I'm going to click here on the 6 tools that we have in Tamara Williams Academy Panel. So I'm going to click here, and as you can see in the layers section we have the texture, and it says remove tool. So I'm going to zoom in, for example, into the portrait where I want to start cleaning this portrait. But for example, if you have some troubles while cleaning, we have the helping layers here. So I'm going to click there. And here we have 3 different helping layers. First one is dodge and burn help, and the second one is dodge and burn help with black and white, and we have the solar curve. So usually I clean the portrait with dodge and burn help, black and white, and the dodge and burn help. So I'm going to reduce this one by 45, and as you can see here we have some details in the portrait that we want to start cleaning. So I'm gonna click here, and for example I'm gonna start cleaning the portrait in the forehead. And usually with the remove tool we paint over the areas that we want to clean in the portrait, and after we are done painting we click here and we wait until the Photoshop does its job. So this is kind of with a generative of AI that is included in Adobe Photoshop, and as you can see a before and after which is looking absolutely amazing. So we gotta continue to clean the portrait, because the first step that we usually do in the retouching process is cleaning, because sometimes when the clean is when it's done in a professional way, we have less work, for example in the dodge and burn, in frequency separation, and everything else. So basically if you are a professional photographer or you are trying to learn retouch, or you want to become a retoucher, usually when you clean the portrait in the beginning, obviously you need to clean as good as possible so there is no spots left for later. But for example, if you miss some things, which I'm gonna do it right now, and I'm going to show them later how you can clean the portrait with the frequency separation, obviously, because sometimes we miss stuff when we clean in the beginning. And if you forget, I'm going to show you how you can clean with the in the section of the frequency separation. So I'm gonna clean this portrait. And now that I'm done with the painting, I'm just gonna click here, and I will wait until, as I said, the generative fill of AI will do the job inside the remove tool. And I think that the results will be amazing, obviously. So here we have a before and after what we've done so far with the cleaning, and I think that is looking absolutely great. Let me just show you before and after here in the forehead, which I think that is looking okay. And for example, let's just show you before and after of everything that we've done. And now that we are done with the cleaning, it's time for the dodge and burn. And here we have the dodge and burn section. We have the global, as you can see. We have mild darkening, strong darkening, mild brightening, and strong brightening. I'm going to delete that one. And we have the macro, which is for pores, and fixed for the brightening. And we have the 50% gray, in which, for example, when we want to dodge and burn the portrait with the dodge and burn tool that we have here, you can use a 50% dodge and burn gray. For example, you can zoom in here, and I want to clean the nostril, so I'm gonna click here on the burn tool with 100%. Let me just make the smaller brush, and I will paint it over there with a burn tool to clean the hair that is inside the nostrils, just like this. So here's before and after, and just a little on the other side. Sorry. Now check it before and after, which is looking okay. And for example, if you want to dodge and burn inside the 50% gray, for example, I'm gonna click one more time here, and I will turn on the helping layers. I'm gonna zoom in, for example, here, and with a dodge tool with only 1%, for example, we can start dodging the portrait just like this. Now check it before and after. Let me just zoom out. Here's before and after what we've done so far in the 50% gray, which is absolutely amazing. But this time I'm going to use the dodge and burn, which is global. And usually I use this method when I dodge and burn the portraits. I click here on the window. I will click here on the arrange, and I will click here that says new window for the name of the file. So we have the same file in two windows. I'm gonna click here one more time in the window, arrange, and choose that one that is 2 up vertical. So we have the same window in two windows. The reason why I do this is because in the left window I leave it in the zoom out, and in the right one I leave it in zoom in, so we don't have to zoom in and zoom out every time that we are working in the dodge and burn. So I'm gonna make the left window smaller, just like this. And I will zoom in here in the right one. For example, I'm going to zoom in here in the forehead. I'm going to turn on the black and white helping layers that we have here. And I'm going to start, for example, with a mild brightening and the mild darkening. So I'm going to click B for brush and make sure that we have a white brush, and with 1%, 100% of the opacity and only 1% of the flow. And we do that same thing in the mild darkening for the burn. So we click here on the mild brightening to start dodging the portrait, just like this. And we start working in the dodge and burn. And we do this process as good as possible, because as I said, with a nice cleaning and some nice dodge and burn, sometimes you don't even want to work with a frequency separation. So I'm just going to dodge and burn the portrait as good as possible. And the reason why I did two windows, as I said before, is because I don't have to zoom in and zoom out to check before and after every time that I do something. So you gotta keep an eye in the left window and work in the right one. So here we have a before and after what we've done with the dodge and burn. As you can see, before and after without the dodge and burn help, which is looking absolutely amazing. I'm going to dodge this part just a little more because I think that we have missed it, just like this. So here's the before and after of the dodge and burn, and I think that is looking okay. And now that we are done with the dodge and burn, we can click again to the Tamara Williams Academy panel, and it's time for the frequency separation. So we have the Gaussian blur and median. So for example, when you click here on the Gaussian blur, as you can see, let me just turn off the black and white help layer. We have the Gaussian blur. Here we have the low or base or the color. We have the correct colors, and we have the high or the texture. But usually I work with the median because I think that it will fit for my portraits. Sorry. So here we have the low base, the color, correct colors, and we have the high or the texture. And for example, when we zoom in, we click here on the correct colors. Usually in the correct colors, I work with a mixer brush. So the settings for the mixer brush are 10% of the wet, flow by 33, mix by 35, and flow by 45. And make sure that sample all layers is checked, and make sure that high or the texture remains off, because for example, if we turn it on and we start working here, as you can see, when we have the sample all layers checked right now with the high texture on, as you can see, we have the texture that is applying here from the texture layer. So we have to turn off right now because we need to work in the layers that we have under that. So usually in the color colors, I mix the skin tones of the face just like this with a mixer brush, just like this. So here's a before and after what's going on here, which is, I think it's starting to look absolutely great, because sometimes in the frequency separation, the things that we can't achieve with that dodge and burn, we do that with frequency separation. And if you think that you overdo the process, I'm going to show you how you can undo that later. So I'm gonna keep working just a little more here in the face. So here's before and after what we've done in the colors, and as you can see that we have overdone the process, for example in the highlights. So in order to undo that, I'm gonna double click here, and the properties of the layer style will pop up, and here we have the underlying layer. For example, if we slide this into the left, as you can see, the parts of inside the highlights will undo. So I'm gonna click Alt keyboard, hold it, and click to divide this one, and slide this into the left. And as you can see, we are undoing that part of the colors only in the highlights. I'm gonna click OK. I'm gonna check another before and after, and as you can see, that is looking absolutely great. And if you think, for example, that you overdid the process, for example in the freckles or in the parts that you don't want to, you can click here to create a layer mask. You zoom in, and with a black brush and 100% of the opacity, 100% of the flow, you can just paint it where you want to undo that process, just like this. You can check a before and after in the pores, for example, to see where you want to undo that, and you can just paint it out just like this. So let me just check a before and after, and I think that is looking absolutely great. And now that we are done with the colors, it's time to work in the high or in the texture. And for example, I'm gonna start cleaning the portrait just a little more, and we are going to do that with the clone stamp tool and make sure that 100% of the opacity, 100% of the flow, and we have the soft round in the general brushes that it's offered to us by Photoshop. And we click here Alt keyboard and click to copy the part that we want to copy and to paste it somewhere else. So make sure that you copy as near as possible in the parts that you want to clean. So click Alt keyboard, hold it, just click to copy and release it, and just paint to paste, just like this. So you gotta keep copy pasting the texture as near as possible, because for example, if we copy the texture here and we paste it here, as you can see, the texture will be fake, and we don't want that. So make sure that you copy paste as near as possible. And this is the method that I told you in the beginning. For example, if you don't clean the portrait as good as possible in the cleaning part, you can do it in the frequency separation, and you do it as good as possible here too. Now check out before and after the frequency separation, and I think that is looking okay. And for example, as you can see in the cheeks, we lost some of the dodge and burn, but don't worry, because we can add another dodge and burn layer to that. So I'm gonna click again here, click on the dodge and burn, and this time I'm going to work with the 50% gray. And click here on the burn and make sure, for example, I work with the midtones, and exposure usually I go by 10%, and click burn tool and just paint it over there, just like this. And make sure that you have the protect tones on, just like this. Just a little under the lips, under the nose. Now check a before and after, which is kind of too much, but we are going to reduce the opacity of that one. Now click here on the dodge and 10% of the dodge, and make sure that it's midtones. Usually I work this way. Now just paint over the areas that we want to add some dodge, just like that. For example, you can do it or add some dodge and burr into the hair, why not? Now check it before and after, which is kind of too much, because 100%, as you can see, is looking way too much. So I'm going to reduce it by 65%. Now check it before and after of everything that we have done so far, which I think that is looking okay. Now that I'm done with the dodge and burn, I'm gonna click here to add some skin tone into the portrait. So I'm gonna click here and I wait until the skin tone it's done. As you can see, it's color correction skin tone. It's adding some of the layers, and it says paint to unify skin tone here. And usually we do that with a quick selection. So I'm gonna click here on the skin, but since the skin color is similar to the background color, I'm gonna click here on the layer mask with a white brush. I'm just gonna paint over the face, just like this. For example, you can remove the skin tone color from the lips with a black brush. You can zoom in and just paint it out, just like this. Let me just see the selection, which I think that is looking okay. Now here we have a group that says pick skin tone, and we have 4 variations. So here we have the first one, the second one, a third one, and the fourth one. And I think that I'm gonna stick with the third one. And here we have the adjust brightness reds and yellows. We are gonna double click here and we're gonna play with the yellow, with the reds and yellows. For example, if we slide this into the left, as you can see that skin tone is kind of into dark. And if we slide the yellows into the left or into the right, you can play around with the skin tone brightness, just like this. And for example, 100% is kind of too much, so I'm gonna go by 20%. And here we have the adjust skin tone. We can double click here and the reds will pop up. For example, if we play around with the red color, as you can see, the skin tone color will change, but I think that I'm gonna leave them as it is with 0%. And we can play around with the yellows too, just a little, because I want the skin tone to remain as original as possible. And I'm going to put this into 45%. And here we have a before and after, which is looking okay. Now that we are done with the skin tone, I'm gonna add some glow into the portrait. And in the highlights, for example, we gotta paint over the face, just like this. Or you can even make a selection around the subject and just save it for when you want to paint it around the face, around the skin, just like that. So here we have a before and after. Let me just zoom in here. And I think that is looking okay. Now that we are done with the glow, for example, we can add some iris effects or catch light to the eyes. For example, I'm going to click here on the iris. And as you can see, an iris brush will show. I'm just gonna paint here, just like this, to see what's going on here. And for example, if you don't like this one, when you download the Tamara Williams Academy Panel, you can even check the brushes that she has in her website. And for example, I'm gonna slide this down, and here we have the iris brushes. We have a bunch of different variations of the iris brushes, as you can see. Iris left, iris right, iris to left, right. And as I said, we have a bunch of iris brushes, but I think that I'm gonna stick with that one that we had in the beginning, and I think that is this one. And as you can see, it's iris 1 left, so we have to paint in the left eye. Let me make this brush smaller, just like this. And you can play around, for example, with the arrows to match the eye, and just click to paint. As you can see, a before and after. And you can click here on the iris, which is right. I'm gonna make the brush bigger and play around with the arrows to match the eye, just like this, and just paint. Now zoom out. So here's before and after, which I think is looking absolutely great. And now that you are done with adding the iris, for example, you can even add some catch light to the eyes. You can just make the brush smaller and play around with the arrows to match the eye, just like this. And you can paint to add some catch light, but I think that I'm going to delete it because I want only the iris effect on this portrait. And now that we are done with the eyes, for example, you can click here to play around with the eyebrows, lashes here, or eyeliner, depends what you want in the portrait. I'm just gonna click here to color correct about the eyes, because I want to clean the white of the eyes. So I'm gonna click here on the color correction, eyes, and here we have the eye white and eye color. So I'm gonna zoom in inside the eyes, and I'm gonna start painting here in the layer mask of this group, just like this, with 100% opacity and 100% of the flow. Make sure that you do this process as good as possible, because we don't want to make the skin outside the eyes blurry, because this is what it does. Just like this. Now check it before and after in the zoom out, and if you think that is looking okay, we have to leave it like that. And if we don't, I'm going usually we reduce the opacity of this one, and here we have the eye color. For example, if you want to change the eye color, you can just play paint over there, just like this. You zoom out and check it before and after, and if you don't like the eye color, for example, you can double click here and play around with the hues to find another color for your eyes. But I think that I'm going to stick with the eye color, the original one that we have right now. And now that we are done with the eyes, here we have in the color correction, we have the lips, blush. For example, I'm gonna add some blush to the portrait, and I'm gonna paint it here in the cheeks, just like this. Now check before and after, and if you think that is too much, you can always reduce the opacity of that one. Now check it before and after of everything that you've done so far, which I think that is looking absolutely great. And now I'm gonna click here on the lips, and I'm going to zoom in and start painting, for example, in the lips, just like this, where the lips color is kind of missing into the portrait. So we are going to fill that, just like this. And for example, if you don't have a lipstick color in your portrait, you can add some lipstick color with this tool, because as you can see that I'm painted inside the lips, you can just double click here and play around with the color. But as you can see that the paint is not that good, you need to do it as precise as possible. Usually I do this with the pen tool. I create a selection around the lips and I paint inside that. But as you can see, before and after what we've done to the lips, which I think that is looking absolutely great, I'm going to reduce it just a little. Now check it before and after, and I think that is looking okay. And now that we're done with the color correction section with the lips, blush and eyes and glow, the teeth is looking okay, and I'm not going to add anything to that. For example, you can play around with the eyebrows, and the lashes. For example, you can click here on the lashes and the lash will pop up. But for example, if I said in the beginning, if you download the brushes from Tamara Williams, you have a bunch of them. For example, you have the iris, eyebrows, eyeliner, freckles, and everything else. For example, here in the eyebrows section, let me just find the lashes. Here we have the lashes. In the lashes group, we have the full top, which we have a bunch of them. Let me just zoom out. And as you can see, we have a bunch of eyelashes. And we have the full bottom. As you can see, a bunch of them. Here we have the full eyelashes. For example, you can add them into your portrait. And here we have the individual that you can paint one by one. And here we have some pair, which you can paint one by one. But I think that right now the freckles and the eyelashes, eyebrows, and everything else is looking okay into our portrait. Let me just delete that one. And for example, as I said, if you think that the lashes in your portrait are looking okay, you can leave them as they are. And if you want to, you can add with a bunch of lashes that Tamara Williams is providing to us. And you can even add some freckles into your portrait if you want to. For example, if we click here on the freckles and we paint it here, let me just make this smaller, play around with the arrows to match the face, just like this. As you can see, Let me just zoom in. You have to paint them out in the pores that we have painted with a soft round, with a black brush. We have to paint them out inside the layer mask, just like this. Now check out before and after. As you can see, they're looking really great. We have to reduce the opacity of this one to match the face, but I think that I'm not gonna add some freckles into the portrait because the portrait is looking absolutely great. And now that we are done with everything else about the portrait, that cleaning, frequency separation, dodger burn, some color correction and details, it's time to add, for example, some texture. So I'm gonna click here on add, and here we have a bunch of textures for the portrait. So I'm gonna click here on that says skin texture highlight, and I'm gonna paint here, for example, in the forehead, just a little in the cheeks, and here we have some texture for our portrait. And if you think that with 100% is way too much, and if the texture doesn't match your portrait, you can always play around with the angle of that, just like this. And you can play around with the highlights and the shadows of the skin texture. You can play around until you find the best angle and the best highlights and shadows for your portrait. Let me just zoom in. So here we have a before and after, which is not that much because we play around with the highlights and the shadows. For example, we can add some texture into the cheeks. We click here on add. As you can see, we have a side cheek texture. We click there and we just paint it here, just like this. And as I said, you have to play around with the angle or the highlights or the shadows of the texture that we added. So here we have a before and after, which is absolutely looking great, but we need to paint that out from the eyes. As you can see, before and after. And if you think that 100% of the opacity is way too much, you can always lower it. So here we have a before and after everything that we've done so far into this portrait, which is absolutely fine. And now that we are done with everything else, it's time for the finish. So we click here and we wait until the finish does its job. So here we have a before and after of the finish. I'm gonna put all these layers into a single group, and here we have what we've done so far with everything, and here we have the finish. So let me just check your before and after, which is absolutely great. Now here we have a before and after of everything. So here's before and here's after, here's before and here's after. Let me just zoom in. As you can see, the texture is absolutely great, and we didn't overdo the process because this is what we are trying to achieve when we retouch. We maintain the original of the portrait, and I think that is looking absolutely great. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this long video tutorial. Please don't forget to check all the links down in the description because you will find the Tamara Williams Academy Panel. And if you decide that you want to get the Tamara Williams Academy Panel and brushes and everything else that she is selling in her website, make sure that in the discount section put ERJ10 to get 10% off. And if you want to get the raw files that we used in this video tutorial, link is in the description. Leave some comments down below. Let me know if I'm understandable or not, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.